pukul 9. Saya akan introduce Dato' Aishah. Kemudian I have to leave for a short while.
Sure.
Then tak tahu pukul berapa boleh join balik. Ada a few things pula
Not a
pagi.
problem at all, bro. Tak
Hmm?
ada masalah. Tak ada masalah.
Okay, tapi I'll come back before as soon as possible.
Right.
Ramai orang nak join ni, tapi ada yang ada a few things, kemudian dia orang tanya ada recording, memang ada recording lah.
Not a problem. Not a problem at
But I
all.
think I have also shared with the Circle of Academics, other universities as well, because I think this will be very useful for them. So we have also YouTube live, apa ni, untuk orang luar daripada USM lah, untuk mengikuti ni. Because I think this is useful and will be very useful.
Hopefully, hopefully
yeah.
I will give something slightly different from a different angle.
Yeah. Okay, boleh, you already have Kak Syah,
Boleh lah, insyaAllah.
Okay, so boleh kita mulakan. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi. Selamat sejahtera kepada semua rakan-rakan akademik pensyarah daripada USM dan juga rakan-rakan akademik, mungkin juga ada yang bukan akademik, daripada universiti-universiti yang lain yang mengikuti program kita pada pagi ini live di YouTube, ya. Dalam Webex ni mainly USM lah, USM staff. But it's okay kalau ada online yang join juga. So, terima kasih saya ucapkan kepada Prof. Madya, Dr. Aishah. Nanti saya perkenalkan sebentar lagi yang sudi menerima jemputan saya untuk membuat perkongsian tentang micro-credential. Sebab saya rasa memang penting untuk warga USM dan juga warga akademik juga untuk mendengar pelbagai perspektif tentang micro-credential. Saya rasa as far as USM is concerned, mungkin orang pun tak larat nak dengar kot daripada saya lah. Mungkin to the extent that maybe, orang kata apa, istilah tu muak dengar Prof. Karim cakap pasal micro-credential. So, saya faham dan I'm orang kata apa, humble enough to bring other people to talk about micro-credential, because as I mentioned, always mention that this is a game changer. So I think we have to really understand very clearly what micro-credential is about and how we can be part of it and how we can leverage the power and the flexibility of micro-credential. So, pagi ni kita ada speaker yang tidak asing lagi bagi mereka yang dalam dunia akademik ini, iaitu sahabat saya, kawan saya, rakan saya yang amat saya hormati, Profesor Madya Dr. TS, Dr. Aishah Abu Bakar. Sebelum saya bacakan biodata Dr. Aishah ni, saya nak say a few things lah about Dr. Aishah. Saya kenal Dr. Aishah ni daripada tahun 2018. Itu pertama kali kot saya bertemu dengan Dr. Aishah dalam satu pertemuan yang rasmi, sebab waktu itu Dr. Aishah jadi juri. Jadi juri dalam panel, kita panggil panel juri lah, panel juri atau panel penilai dalam anugerah akademik negara tahun 2018. Sebenarnya Dr. Aishah ni, untuk makluman rakan-rakan semua, adalah merupakan pemenang ataupun penerima anugerah akademik negara kategori teaching, kategori pengajaran yang pertama. Betul Dr. Aishah yang pertama? AAN diperkenalkan 2006 kan? Yes, and Dr. Aishah adalah antara pemenang ataupun penerima anugerah akademik negara kategori pengajaran yang pertama bersama dengan Datuk Muhammad Amin Embi, Datuk Dr. Muhammad Amin Embi yang telah pun bersara daripada UKM, dan Datuk Aishah bersama dengan Datuk Amin. Inilah orang kata apa, the scholar yang telah diiktiraf oleh negara, oleh Kementerian Pendidikan Tinggi waktu itu dengan anugerah yang tertinggi dan berprestij iaitu Anugerah Akademik Negara kategori pengajaran. Bukan mudah untuk mencapai ke tahap itu. Dan pada tahun 2008, saya telah dipaksa juga untuk memohon Anugerah Akademik Negara, dan pada waktu itu jadi ada dua peringkat ya. Peringkat yang kedua ni peringkat interview dan micro teaching ya. Dan Dr. Aisyah waktu itu menjadi salah seorang panel ya. Tapi saya tak rasa nervous waktu itu. Saya rasa begitu yakin dan begitu seronok. I don't know why. Mungkin sebab saya tengok wajah-wajah panel itu semua wajah-wajah yang begitu sejuk dipandang ya. Begitu friendly, begitu warm, and I remember after that we had a tea and Dr. Aisyah we had a short conversation. So that was the beginning of knowing kenal dengan Dr. Aisyah. Dan selepas itu Dr. Aisyah banyak terlibat ya untuk makluman semua. Dr. Aisyah asalnya daripada Universiti Malaya. So she was the recipient of the National Teaching Award ataupun Anugerah Akademik Negara Kluster Kejuruteraan. Okay. Tahun 2006 ya. And the first National Academic Award recipient in 2006. Boleh kita berikan tepukan dalam gunakan ikon tu, kita berikan tepukan ini kepada pemenang awal, penerima awal Anugerah Akademik Negara. Dan sebelum itu, she was awarded, thank you for the tepukan ya, she was awarded the Chancellor Award for Excellence in Teaching in 2007 by the University of Malaya. Bukan mudah nak dapat Chancellor Award ni ya. She was an expert panel and contributor to the publication of National Guideline of Good Practices, Curriculum Design and Delivery by MQA. So banyak terlibat dengan Dr. Aisyah dengan MQA, very knowledgeable. So saya nampak tadi kita ada pengarah kualiti, pusat kualiti Dr. Aisyah, USN, Dr. Prof. Irfan, orang yang mengetahui anything yang related to MQA. So Dr. Aishah's research work on assessment, ini pakar ni assessment ya, in higher education, e-assessment in tertiary learning, and has led to several awards nationally and internationally. She was seconded twice to the Department of Higher Education, Ministry of Higher Education, as a Director of Academic Development Management Division yang sekarang dipanggil Bahagian Kecemerlangan Akademik. Yang pengarahnya sekarang adalah Profesor Madya Dr. Wan Zuhainis. 2 kali diseconded ke KPT ya. So that speaks volume as to the credibility of Dr. Aisyah. She played a major role in driving the Ministry of Education policies involved dalam kita punya blueprint ya waktu itu, dan telah terlibat dalam banyak macam-macam jenis guideline yang berkaitan dengan higher education ya, policies, flexible education, macam-macam long list of projects and initiative yang Dr. Aisyah telah terlibat. Dan sekarang Dr. Aisyah berada di berkhidmat dengan Universiti Malaysia Pahang ataupun UMP. I guess it's such a loss to UMP, tapi Dr. Aisyah masih lagi dalam ada Malaysian education ecosystem. So kita amat bertuah ya to have Dr. Aisyah to still be around to contribute to our education. So Dr. Aisyah, pada pagi ini saya amat berterima kasih kepada Dr. Aisyah sekali lagi kerana sudi menerima jemputan saya. Saya amat berbesar hati bagi pihak USM dan juga bagi pihak semua staf USM dan juga akademik yang lain di seluruh Malaysia. Microcredential merupakan satu mungkin perkara yang relatively masih baru, especially di Malaysia. In fact, di seluruh dunia, termasuk juga US. It is still evolving very fast, very dynamically. There are always two schools of thought, some supporting the idea of micro-credential, some not so. But I strongly believe and I'm strongly advocating micro-credential because of the flexibility it offers, and to me it's really a game changer. Saya nampak Datuk Syahrin UTM tanya saya something. Dia nak tengok, dia nak follow ni kot. Dia nak follow kita punya Webex ni. Okay, Datuk Syahrin from UTM. So sebab Dr. Aisyah lah tu. Kalau saya yang bagi ni dia tak nak dengar. Okay Dr. Aisyah, without further ado, I pass the session to you, pass over the session to you. Dan I will come back shortly to join the session ya. Terima kasih Dr. Aishah. Silakan.
Thank you, Prof. Karim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good morning. Such an elaborate introduction to who I am, and I think Prof. Karim is just exaggerating a little bit too much, and it's actually making me
I'm not
more
exaggerating.
nervous than before.
Dr. Aishah, I'm not exaggerating. That's true. All are true.
Well, it was very long time ago. But anyway, when I received the invitation from Prof. Karim himself, because Prof. Karim is the one who contacted me for this topic, I was to a certain extent like not 100% reluctant, but I actually asked myself, what else can I speak on this topic? To be honest, I'm not a credential person to be talking about micro-credential, because the expert is Prof. Karim and also USM team, and also I know there are many scholars and also academics out there who already embark in this journey for a very long time, and I think they are more credentialed to talk about micro-credential. But I also would like to take the challenge and this opportunity to discuss what I have discussed before with open learning, because this webinar, exactly similar topic has been done last year in November during the open learning symposium. However, I'm also going to give a new insight. As Prof. Karim mentioned, micro-credential is evolving, and currently now there are many people talks about micro-credential, not only in Malaysia, but elsewhere throughout the world. And as it evolves, we also get new knowledge and also new information. So what I'm trying to do today is just sharing whatever that I know from the perspective of curriculum design and delivery. And also basically, due to my background and also experience I had with the Ministry of Higher Education, I'm also going to give my input on how we should plan for successful micro-credential. I think that is roughly the gist of what we're gonna share today. From time to time, you are more than welcome to unmute your mic and also to share your opinion and stop me at any time. So feel free to do that because, as I mentioned, this is not an expert talking to the rest of colleagues, but this is just a sharing session where whatever points that I'm going to make is not necessarily right. And perhaps you can also give your viewpoint on whatever that we're going to discuss today. So let me share my slide, and I have to declare that my slide is not as pretty as what Prof. Karim normally present. May I just check whether you can see my slide clearly now?
Nampak, Doktor?
Nampak siapa tu Rosina
Rosana.
Rosana Okay,
Yeah.
so Rosana, from time to time, I do hope that you can stop me if there's any question pop up in the chat box. And also if there's any participant raise hands or anything, just let me know, and I will pause accordingly. Basically, this is the a little bit of activity for you to participate. because I don't know exactly who is my participant, and also I would like to know what do you think you would like to learn today, because there has been a lot of webinar on micro-credential by USM team, by I'm sure in your institution as well, you have plenty of webinar and also workshops on micro-credential. You can even just sit in front of your laptop or in front of your handphone and you know, type micro-credential. You should be able to get plenty of YouTube that help you to understand what micro-credential is all about. So let us find out a little bit about why you are here. If you can go to Multimeter and use the word cloud, put the code 33201397. I do hope that it works. Us to participate and let us know your wish list. Let's begin with that. How to create a micro-credential, how MC helps me better, curiosity, I'm curious about micro-credential. Some of you said that I would like to have a look at how I can design my course. It's coming. Replacing my normal class. I like to improve. Many still would like to find out what is micro-credential. Many said that I'm curious. Start from zero to hero. The instructional design part. Activities, policy from MQA. Wow, that's plenty. You're very active indeed. How can I design my class again? Can I make money? I like that. Can I make money? That is also something that we're going to talk about today. How big is micro-credential? That is also something that we're going to talk about today. Can share more, the procedure, how micro-credential works, how to do the simplest way. Right, so thank you so much for your participation. And I think we also get a large word Kingsley now. I'm not sure what that exactly is. Perhaps those who put Kingsley may unmute and may let us know what Kingsley really going to help us in this topic. Right, it keeps coming. I would like to proceed, if you wouldn't mind, to stop just there for a moment, and I would like to proceed to how are we going to attack this topic today in terms of the angle. As I mentioned, there has been plenty of information, and also there have been many webinars on micro-credential that can help you to understand what micro-credential is, because some of you said that I'm here because I would like to know what micro-credential is. And in fact, I think like what Prof. Karim has mentioned, ramai dah yang dah muak dah sebenarnya kalau nak dengar tentang micro-credential. However, it is also good to just go to the any web page on micro-credential. You will be able to get a simplest explanation about what micro-credential is all about. I have to apologize for those who really like to know how to design a course on micro-credential, or what micro-credential, in what way it's being defined. And this is because there has been plenty of this around. And in fact, currently, if you already had an idea what or which part of your course that you would like to turn it into micro-credential, meaning that you are ready to develop your micro-credential. And if you like to know more, or if you like to develop your micro-credential, you can actually participate. I'm not trying to promote open learning here, but all I'm saying is that open learning is offering a free training session. And you can see that so far, session number 1 has been offered 2 weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken, or last week, right? And there'll be another one coming up, and you will be able to know how to design your storyboard, how to put your material on a online learning platform, not necessarily have to be open learning, and you will be walked through by a proper instructional design, right? Because I'm not an instructional designer, I can give you a clue on how you can design your course for an online learning, because micro-credential is indeed an online learning. So you need to create an online learning experience, perhaps using a particular model, like the community of inquiry model, for example. But that is not our main focus here, because as I mentioned, there are plenty out there that you can find, and also you can join. But what I wish to share with you, or to cover with you today, is the process before you develop your micro-credential. In any curriculum, basically micro-credential is also a course, and I think we are all aware a course, a module or a program is part of curriculum. So when we talk about curriculum, we have to design the curriculum, and we must also pay particular attention to the curriculum design and delivery process. And you can see in this diagram that there is when we talk about curriculum design and delivery process, there is a cycle that we need to kind of follow. And the first part of the process is planning. Perhaps many of us do not pay good enough attention on how do we plan our curriculum. So today I would like to go through with you how do we plan, not for a program and not for a course, but how are we going to plan to offer micro-credential. For your information, if we would like to offer a new program, or if we like to review existing program, we must also be doing what we call a proper planning. Fail to do that, we will offer something that is redundant, that is not relevant. And some of you mentioned that how can I make money with micro-credentials? So if you do not do a proper planning, I don't think you won't be able to make money out of your micro-credential. But I will give you a bigger picture, what involved in planning, and money is not the only reason for proper planning need to be done. And you must also realize that if we would like to offer a program, normally this process of curriculum design and delivery is handled by your committee, your curriculum committee at your faculty or at your university. But now the fact that you would like to offer micro-credential, and normally micro-credential is offered by individual lecturer, maybe together with your collaborator, be it your collaborator from industry or from another university or agency and ministry, you will have to do the planning. So your curriculum committee will not do the planning for you. So that is exactly what I would like to walk you through in this session. So in the session objective for today is that I would like to share with you two approaches when it comes to how to turn your university course to micro-credential. I call this approach as approach 1 and approach 2, and I simply call it inside out and also outside in. And you can see that approach 1 is meant for you to use it for you to offer your micro-credential for in the category of higher education. When we talk about offering your micro-credential in the category of higher education, we are talking about how can we break up our course into bite size, into smaller pieces, so that it can be taken by our student in a modular manner, not only in modular manner, our student can stack them so that after, for example, 3 modules, they can turn it into one course, and from several courses they can turn it into a degree. For example, I think this is something that Prof. Karim has already talked about many times, and in the context of higher education as well, what we need to consider when we turn our university course into micro-credential is that we have to make sure that it is portable. What is meant by portable here is that if, for example, you take this particular micro-credential from University A, it should also be recognized by University B, and you can also basically turn your digital badge for you to stack in other university or University B, as I mentioned just now. And that is why also micro-credential for higher education and also for other purposes have to be digital. And there's also another point that I would like to make here. It is about universal. When we talk about universal here, we are talking about it should be acceptable not only by higher learning institution. If you create a good micro-credential, by right, it should also be beneficial and also can be used by other sectors as well, either for upskilling purposes, for lifelong learning, for self-development, and also for filling in the gap due to the problems that we have out there. So that is roughly approach number 1 that we're going to look at. And I got all these 5 points from this particular YouTube. You can go to, or you can just find in YouTube micro-credentials in higher education and enabling future flexible learning pathway. This is from Euroshare, and they have actually using the Erasmus Fund. They have done a little bit of research and they discuss about how do we look at micro-credential for higher education, and I quite like the idea, and I also actually have thought about this for quite some time, except that I did not put them in a systematic manner like what has been discussed in this particular YouTube. Another approach that I would like to share today is what I call the outside in. How do we turn our university course for professional learning? And I also put there for future flexible education. This is also something that I would like us to be prepared. Although this is something that perhaps we have not been exposed much. Bila nak kata not being exposed much pun tak betul lah, because we have been talking about future ready curriculum for quite some time, since 2018 when it was introduced. So future flexible education here is actually referring to how can we turn our university course to micro-credential so that it is ready for what's going to happen in future. So what's going to happen in future, I think we all realize with all this pandemic that the transnational education will be in a new dimension. When I talk about transnational education, we are talking about now not only we can offer our micro-credential to our local students, but we can also offer our micro-credential to other university students outside Malaysia. And if we can work in a consortium, and if we can get our micro-credential recognized by our partners outside Malaysia, then we can embark into bigger transnational education through micro-credential. And as far as professional learning, I think we are all very much aware that our stakeholders has always actually reminding us about how we produce graduate that does not meet the industry requirement. And from time to time, I think we all realize that our government, not only Malaysia, but I think it's also happening elsewhere. Our government has spent so much money in upskilling our graduates. And if we look at this problem, when I was at the ministry, I know how much money has been put aside for this purpose. We have done what we call GE, graduate employability. And we started to ask ourselves, is our university cost not enough? But nowadays, it's not only about we having to put so much in our university course and hence overburden our student. But we must also remember that that career and jobs evolve. And especially with all this pandemic, we know that in this disruptive environment, new jobs being created, and therefore whatever that we prepare our graduates before will definitely have gaps. Therefore, in our course, we can only deliver something that is fundamental. However, we also as lecturer, we also realize that with this fundamental, our graduates will have to fill the skill gap when they work out there. So approach number 2 will be taking you through how can we basically look at our course and how can we turn it into micro-credentials so that we can design it for professional learning, where our micro-credential is career focused and it is endorsed by leading employers in key sectors with high job growth, and how can we address skill gaps out there. So that is roughly what we are trying to do today. I have another Multimeter that I would like you to participate, and I do hope that this is the last Multimeter that I would like you to participate, if you wouldn't mind. How fit or ready is my course to be unbundled? I give you several options for you to choose. I can just leave this for the time being. Look at the Multimeter. I can just go back and present this one. You can go to this Multimeter with the code, same code again, 32201397. What do you think about your course? How fit do you think or ready your course to be unbundled or to turn it into micro-credential? Some of you said that your course is already modularized. I like that. That's a good start. Some of you said that your course is already industry driven. That's very good. Right. It's quite good to see that many of us has already modularized your course. Right, okay. Some of you said that we have 22% said that my course is focusing on real problem solving out there. That's good. My course skewed to skill based. Right, so with this Multimeter, basically I have a clear idea about how fit your course to be unbundled. And let's now, if I can leave that for the time being, and we may revisit that again later on. I would like to start and share with you how can we turn our course to micro-credential for the purpose of in the context of higher education, right? So before we look at for those who have modularized your course, and I think this part perhaps is much easier for you because you have done it. But for those who have not modularized your course, I will walk you through how you can modularize your course, but this is not the only way or the best way to do it. I'm just sharing how I did mine. And in order for me to walk you through that, I would like you to be familiarized with the documents that I think each and every one of us in Malaysia have to handle. And in every course, you must have what we call table 4, because table 4 is compulsory in core part 2. And from table 4, you can see that in every course you must have your course learning outcomes stated, you must align it with assessment methods, and you must already mention your teaching and learning methods and map it to your PLO. And another document that I would like you to focus on is item number 10 of table 4. That is your weekly schedule, or your some people call it lesson plan. And this is where we will be able to see your basically your topics and how you teach your topics over 14 weeks, typically one semester in Malaysia, and also how much time do you spend for each topic, and how does each topic related to a particular learning outcome. So we will start from the premise that you are comfortable with and you're familiar with. So you can see that this is an example of our document in UMP. This is how we translate table 4 in our university. So we do have course learning outcome over here, and we have another section over here where we declare all the assessment that we you roughly have 3 course learning outcome. And for those who teach 4 credit hours course, you have like 4 or maybe 3 learning outcome. Whatever your institutional directive, you must have lists of course learning outcome. And recently in UMP, we do have a program where some courses has been required to be offered in modular manner. So my course has been chosen, and that is why you can see there that I have already labeled that my course learning outcome number 1 is actually module number 1, and learning outcome number 2 is module 2, and learning outcome number 3 is module number 3. If you have not in your course identified which learning outcome for which module, this is the point where I would like to guide you through how you can attach or how you can decide which learning outcome for which module. And by right, when we would like to basically break up your course into micro-credential into perhaps 3 micro-credential, you need to have a good course design. So when we talk about course design, you need to have a good, clear learning outcome statement. And this is where I would like to do a little bit of revision on how to write learning outcome. And I'm sure everybody now is well versed on that, but nevertheless, it is worthwhile to talk about it. It needs to be stated clearly. It has to begin with basically a good action verb. And normally also you can see that the learning outcome is also attached to topics because I'm sure when you write learning outcome, you must have think about after my students have actually done several topics, what can my student do, or what can my student perform, or what can I observe they're able to do at the end of several topics. So basically, if you have a good learning outcome, your learning outcome in itself will have what we call modularized element in it. So it is not going to be very difficult for you to turn it into a micro-credential. So in this part, I would like to show how do you pick your topics from your course and turn it into 3 or 4 micro-credentials. I do not actually going to discuss how you're going to turn it into much smaller micro-credentials. You can refer to USM webpage and you can go to a dedicated section on micro-credential, and Prof. Azida has already discussed how you can actually create micro-credential in a much smaller version based on the course that has been modularized. The approach that I would like to discuss today is a much bigger micro-credential because, as I mentioned, and I think if you listen to the YouTube on the EuroShare, for higher education context, we would like this micro-credential to be modularized and also stackable. So in order for it to be stackable, we do not want it to be too small. So we do not want it to be, for example, in order for students to be able to complete a course like my subject, we do not want to put a student to take, for example, 11 micro-credential or 12 micro-credential. So we are talking about if student would like to complete my course, they perhaps may need to take like 3 micro-credentials. So the aim here is actually to break up your course into a slightly bigger micro-credential in comparison to those that has been shown by Prof. Azida, perhaps. So approach number 1 is inside out. Why I call it inside out? We will start from our course and we will choose topics so that it suits whoever would like to take our micro-credential out there. So this is the main slide for me to explain about the inside out approach. And you can see here that I have 10 topics in my subject. So I would like to explain it through my subject. For your information, I am teaching soil mechanics, and in UMP it is called, it is not called soil mechanics, it is called geology and geomechanics. And it consists of 10 topics altogether. And as I mentioned, when we were asked to modularize our course, I then have to sit down and start to do a little bit of thinking and also planning. And I asked myself, how can I break it up into 3 or 4 modules, right? Modularize is about breaking up into modules. So when I started this, I do not have any idea. So I think like what we used to do when we get a course to teach at university, we always look at what are the topics that we are supposed to teach. And we normally also refer to a good textbook. And from there, we create our content and all and everything that we need to do to teach. So similarly, when we would like to turn our course into micro-credentials, 3 or 4 micro-credentials, I also use the same technique as I used before. I refer to some textbook. I also sit down and do a little bit of reflection on my conversation with industry, people from the industry. I also do a little bit of reflection on what's important based on all my experience through the seminars that I went related to this particular discipline. So when I open up this book, which is similar to the one that you see, and also another textbook that I use for my teaching, I then noticed that, you know, after students have gone through the first 4 topics, by right, student will be able to perform or to do something at the end of the first 4 topics. And I also realized that there are companies related. There are companies that requires the skills related to the first 4 topics. So the company typically requires their workers or their professional to perform whatever that we normally teach in the first 4 topic is, in my case, is the site investigation company. So I decided to put all these 4 topics together, and I call that module as a basic characteristic of soil or soil characterization. So that is how I identify my topic. And in fact, this is also the way how I came up with my learning outcome, because I think if we revisit how we formulate our learning outcome, is that we have to ask ourselves, what exactly student be able to do at the end of certain topics. So you can see here that I have identified at least 4 groups, which I use different color for each group. And you can see that not necessarily all topics with a proper sequence will form into one group or one micro-credential. But you can see that in here, I also found that from my experience and also looking at civil engineering industry out there, I realized that, for example, topic number 5 and topic number 8 are normally what soil improvement company normally do out there, right? And you can see here, simply by selecting topics and based on thematic analysis, you put them in a category and try to connect with what exactly, when exactly a practitioner out there is actually using those topics. You will be able to now cluster your topics into 3 or 4 groups altogether, right? So that is roughly how I identify my 4 modules from my subject. And after several after several, basically, I was trying to show you here. After several cycles of doing that, okay, I found that this process helped me also to refine aim for students to be able to do, right? So when we basically break up our course into this module, 3 or 4 modules, and if we would like to offer it as micro-credential, not only we have to think about who's going to take it, we also need to look at who else have actually offered this micro-credential. In what way, if we offer the same topic, that our micro-credential will be different. I think these are those who have had the experience to defend your program at the Ministry of Higher Education when you want to offer new program. These are common questions being thrown to you. If you would like to offer similar programs, for example, that other people have already offered, normally we will ask you questions like, in what way your program will be different from others. So similarly here, since you are the one who's going to offer this micro-credential after you modularize it, you must have an idea in what way, if you offer, for example, the first module, in what way your module will be different from what has already been offered out there. This is very important indeed, because you do not want to create another micro-credential of less important or having inferior quality than those who have already created it and already making money and get it recognized. So there's also recently a Global Higher Education Forum, GAF 2021, that I would like to discuss a point here. And I think worth for us to consider if we would like to offer micro-credential in higher education context, that is bringing in earlier career crisis or dilemma. What do I mean by bringing in early crisis or dilemma? Is that normally we teach in universities such that we focus so much on the theory, and we very rarely bring in, for example, what will be the problem when our students begin their work in a company in relation to the topics that we are offering. It is worth, if you would like to offer micro-credential, although in the context of higher education, for us to have a look at if my students, if my graduates were to use this knowledge when they work, what will be their hurdle when they start to work in a company, for example. So it is worth to bring in the actual problems that they normally face when they begin to work with a company in relation to the topics that you have put together when you want to turn it into micro-credential, right? So you can see here, when we would like to put our topics together, it is also worth for us to have a look at the various framework And the framework that you see here is actually from Open Learning. Again, I'm not trying to promote open learning here, but I'm sure various online learning platforms like Coursera, FutureLearn, and many others must have a framework for you to offer your micro-credential. And in here, you can see in open learning, they have a framework called Open Creds. And if you like to offer your micro-credential, you can offer it either for higher education purposes or for professional learning or for technical and vocational education and training TVET, right? So if you have a specific target or if you think you would like to combine the two targets together, which is this you also like to widen your audience, you may also think along how can I combine my topics such that it is not only for my future students, but it is also it can also be used for professional learning as well. So it's worthwhile for us to have a look at the various framework available by the online learning platform when we would like to break up our course into micro-credential. And some of us would like to find out how long should my micro-credential be. And this has also been discussed in many webinars and also you can check with the various framework of online learning platform. And you can see if it's in open creds, you can see that the smallest micro-credential can be like 4 hours, and the biggest micro-credential, if I'm not mistaken, can be of the size of 14 weeks. During the micro-credential symposium last year, we had one of the panel that is Dato' Eric Koo, and Dato was talking about how he's basically how his company able to become not only an online learning platform, but it was so successful with the employers such that they also become the one-stop center for the upskilling and also for job matching, right? So when we talk about turning your university course for professional development, for upskilling, and for job matching, Dr. Eric mentioned about it is not enough if we create a micro-credential of, for example, 4 hours, a micro-credential of, for example, 10 hours, because they're too small. And at the end of, for example, 4 hours or 10 hours, normally you won't be able to get a person to perform something in a real world of work. So he also mentioned that it is worthwhile to look at micro-credential of a slightly longer period of time, so slightly bigger portion, and that is why in today's session, as I mentioned, I would like to focus on how do we break up the course into 3 or 4 modules rather than break it up into 10 or 12 modules altogether. So the second part of my sharing today is on how can we now break up our course, not by looking at our course first, but looking at what is needed out there. And I call this approach as second approach. And this second approach is highly, I think, applicable if we would like to aim to produce micro-credential for professional learning and also for future flexible education.
Aisha, can you ask a question about approach 2? No?
Yeah, sure.
Mariam from USM TV.
Mm-hmm.
The approach sebab biasanya lah we approach tu ni maksudnya kita ambil from industry punya point of view and then kita apply dalam kita punya micro-credential course kan? That's what you mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
So if that is something that we already do, sebab macam before kita offer master program for example, kita ambil outside punya input dulu before we actually design the course. So so that means that part has already been done and we can just go into modularizing lah kan?
Yes, but normally
Ada
what we do,
benda tak
but
kena
when
buat?
you, betul, that is correct. That is why I mentioned earlier on. Normally you do the outside in approach for a program. Very rarely you do it for a course, right? At the planning stage, when you want to offer a master's course, you normally get input from stakeholders from the industry, and then you basically design your program, right? You develop your program. But for a course, normally we very rarely do a proper planning. We very rarely take a detailed input from outside. However, Dr. Wan, perhaps you have done it, and if you have done it, there shouldn't be a problem for you to straight away modularize your course, and from there you can develop a good micro-credential.
Kan Dr. Aisha, your micro-credential ni very long lah kan? How long is the time taken for the student to complete? Can I know?
Tadi macam subjek saya kan ada in my course, typical university course for 3 credits, we deliver over 14 weeks, right?
So does that mean yours is around 14 weeks punya?
Yeah, no, my micro-credential is not 14 weeks because I break it up into 3. So 14 divided by 3, so I have some micro-credential of 3 or 4 weeks. Macam tu. Is it okay? Maybe what I can do is I can share, let me find out. Okay. This is my so-called SLT table and lesson plan. You can see how I break up it, how I break up my 14 weeks into 3 modules. So you can see module number 1, and module number 1 here is related to topic number 1, 2, 3, and 4. And all topic 1, 2, 3, and 4 is they are all aimed for course learning outcome number 1. So it is delivered over 4 weeks. However, if you look at the actual student learning time, and I think this is where we then have to calculate this micro-credential is actually meant for how many hours. But all I'm saying is that my module 1, when students take module 1, module 2, module 3, and after they take all the 3 modules, they will complete a course. So that is how the 3 modules has been identified. And students are basically able and allowed to take, when the systems are ready, to take any module at any sequence.
Okay, tapi do you have to macam mana? Sebab kalau kita buat micro-credential, a 10 minutes video is equivalent to 1 hour of SLT, which is not the same dengan normal face-to-face kita. So do you have to adjust accordingly?
I think once you have modularized it, you know that micro-credential will be for how many hours, and you have already since you know the SLT for that micro-credential. Let's say if I can just do a quick mathematics over here, so I 4 weeks out of 120, 4 weeks out of, let me find out 4 weeks divided by 14 weeks altogether. So we are talking about 34 SLT for my module number 1. And when I design module number 1, and in fact I currently developing module number 1, I make it into 40 SLT hours for module number 1. Right, so after you have identified that particular module and you know what is the size of the SLT, then you are ready to then develop your micro-credential with those things in mind. The one that you mentioned just now, for example, a few minutes video is worth of how many SLT and all that.
Yes. So maksudnya the BPK for micro-credential would be slightly different from the normal BPK yang kita ajar biasa tu, kan?
BPK tu stands for apa ya, Dr. Wan?
Sorry, borang penawaran kursus ni lah, what you are doing, CO ni. For our normal course, kalau kita biasa mengajar 1 hour, kita consider 1 hour of learning time. So now we are changing for every 10-minute video to be 1 hour of student learning time. Dia dah macam stretch. So maksudnya our micro-credential tu lain dia punya course mapping ni berbanding dengan the normal one that we have, or it has to match?
Tak juga sebenarnya. And that is why I think recently, I think if you are all aware that starting from last year, we have introduced what we call substitute blended learning in Malaysia. And the design of substitute blended learning works such that you can also design your substitute blended learning too as an online, it's like as an online course. So if you follow the guide on how you design your course for substitute blended learning, you will be able to see that how we turn our module into an online learning tu sama je method dia sebenarnya. So if for example, if you can see my module number 1, if for example I take 8 plus 7 plus 7 plus 8, including the assessment related to module number 1, which is that one there, 3 and 4, then we will be able to see the total SLT hours for module number 1. So now with that total SLT in mind, we can then start to plan how we can turn it into full online. So the way we deliver our module that we normally deliver over 4 weeks face-to-face into full online is slightly different. So this is where we need to use another guide, and I think the next guidebook that you would like to refer to is perhaps the PTG guidebook, which is the pembelajaran teradun gantian. That will help you to solve the problem on how we translate the 40 hours that SLT for module number 1 into full online learning experience.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe it is not clear because I did not expect the questions and I did not prepare that particular point there. So my apology for that.
Sorry Dr. Aishas, dia datang.
Tak apa.
Dr. Aisha, kita
Yes.
boleh ambil soalan lagi ke?
Boleh?
Okay, ada yang tanya, can language courses, history, literature be turned into micro-credential?
Can language?
Courses, history, literature be turned into MC?
You can turn anything into MC. And in fact, language, literature have much more advantage because if you look at second approach after this, you are in a much better position to offer micro-credential and make money. In comparison to maybe some of us that is highly technical or perhaps slightly more scientific. Right? Ada soalan lagi ke?
Saya ada satu soalan, Dr. Aisyah.
Ya.
Nama saya Nasha, saya daripada Pusat Penyelidikan Arkeologi Global. Jadi sebelum COVID ni lah, sebelum ke COVID ni, pandemik ni, daripada tahun 2016 sampai 2019, kami dah memang ada kursus micro-credential. Tapi kursus micro-credential kami adalah secara bersemuka. So kami dalam bidang arkeologi, jadi pelajar-pelajar daripada luar akan datang, akan buat praktikal, akan buat excavation dan sebagainya lah. Jadi disebabkan oleh COVID-19 ni, jadi kami terpaksalah nak convertkan kursus micro-credential kami tu daripada yang bersemuka kepada bentuk online lah. Seperti mana yang kita akan buat sekarang ni. Jadi untuk kursus kami tak ada buat video-video, kami 100% synchronous. Jadi it is lecture lah. Lecture tu kami akan teruskan dalam masa sejam, 2 jam. Lepas pada lecture tu kita akan buat aktiviti sikit-sikit. Jadi macam tu pun okey ke, Dr. Aisyah? Sebab kami ni tak boleh nak buat video lah, sebab lecture kami ni selalunya memang sangat panjang lah, banyak benda nak yang kita nak kena explain. And then disebabkan oleh the nature of bidang arkeologi ni sendiri pun. Jadi kalau tangkap video 10 minit tu semua, it is not going to be enough. Jadi kami ingat nak buat satu bentuk micro-credential tapi dalam bentuk synchronous, 100% synchronous. Lectures dalam 1 jam lebih macam tu, and lepas lecture tu kita adalah aktiviti-aktiviti quiz dan sebagainya. Jadi benda macam tu, sistem macam tu acceptable lah untuk khusus micro-credential ni?
Micro-credential ni ialah online sebenarnya.
Yes. Ya, tapi online tu kita guna lah Webex lah. Selalunya kita guna Webex ataupun Zoom lah.
Right. Macam mana nak kata okay, let me start from here. Okay, before pandemic, we deliver basically we deliver all our topics ni secara face to face, betul tak?
Yes, betul.
Jadi during pandemic, we deliver our topics using technology, and we use internet, and we also use a meeting platform like Webex, Google Meet.
Yes.
That is considered as online learning, but it is not true online learning.
Okay.
So sebenarnya when we deliver our topics using Google Meet or Webex, they are still considered face to face actually.
Okay.
Because when we talk about delivering our topics or our subject face to face covered physical face to face, and face to face is also can be done in a virtual manner.
Okay.
However, online learning ni that a lot of people perhaps confuse ataupun misinterpret. Online learning is where you let your learners learn without the teacher being there, secara face to face. Be it physical or be it virtual synchronous.
Okay.
That is why if you enroll into, for example, FutureLearn, open learning courses, Coursera, you won't be able to meet your instructor through Google Meet, for example, through Webex, but you meet your instructor through collaborative learning through forum, for example. That's how you communicate with your facilitator and with the rest of your learners, the rest of your team, right? So micro-credentials that we are talking here is about we producing not only a bite size of our course that we break it up into 3 or 4 modules, as I mentioned just now, which you have already done. You have actually break up your course into modules, kan?
Dah. Kami semua dah ada course mapping semua. Cuma
sekarang ni you have not turned it into full online.
So there is a difference.
yeah, if you like it to be micro-credential, then you have to turn it into full online. And as I mentioned earlier on, there is a technique on how you need to turn it into full online. Macam Dr. Wan mentioned tadi, first of all, you need to know one module tu berapa SLT hours itu. Okay, for higher education purposes, you really need to look after your SLT hours. Else, after your student have taken module 1, module 2, module 3, they won't be able to tukar lah, turn it into all. They cannot turn the digital batches into one course, because if you do not take care of SLT for each module, then it won't make up the 120 SLT for a course, for example, so it can stackable. So that is one thing that you need to take care of. Second thing that you need to take care of is, let's say you have already identified one module is 40 SLT. For example, like in my case, the first 4 topic is 40 SLT, right? Then you need to design how you're going to turn the 40 SLT learning experiences into full to learn, because delivering your course fully online is different from delivering your course face-to-face, be it in a cyberspace. Because currently during the pandemic, majority of us are actually delivering our course, although it is online, but still considered as face-to-face, because we are delivering it synchronously. However, if you deliver a particular topic asynchronously, by right, you should design that particular topic when it is when it requires to be delivered full online. You have to deliver it as if it is micro-credential. It has to be designed in a full online manner. So when we talk about designing full online manner, you're talking about, you need to create, when you want to deliver your micro-credential, you need to create a teacher presence, because you are not there to speak to your learners. Therefore, you need to create a teacher presence. What we mean by teacher presence is that, kalau normally when you go into your classroom, the first thing, or even in your Google Meet, when you want to deliver your, let's say, topic number 1, week 1, you ask student, how are you today? And then you will talk about, today we're going to cover this, this, and this. So if you turn that particular week or that particular topic into micro-credential, you will have to do exactly the same, but now it is online. It has to be in a form of either video where you greet and meet your student. It has to be either turned into text where you actually tell your student that, hi everyone, I am your facilitator. In this course, you will experience this, 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 and this. So that is what micro-credential is all about. It is an online course. It is not a full 3 credit hours course that we normally deliver over 14 weeks, but it is a much smaller version of your full subject that you normally deliver over 14 weeks. So that is why when we want to turn our course into micro-credential, we need to learn how to design the micro-credential course so that it really embrace the online learning design principles. And this is where this is where you can learn all this from the proper learning designer. And you can see here, Open Learning is actually making it free. You can learn from Atika, and Atika is one of Open Learning online learning designer. So she will walk you through on how you should create your learning page, what should be in there, what language you should use when you deliver your online micro-credentials. So there's a difference actually between micro-credential and how we currently deliver our course, although in a modularized manner. during over the pandemic period at the moment. Another thing about Nasha punya question tadi tu, you can see that if you like to turn your course into several, let's say 3 micro-credential, whether you like it or not, you need to produce some quality video, teaching video or content video. And if it involves practical, right, you may like to find out whether you would like to create a micro-credential where it is delivered in a hybrid manner. So this is also something that I would like to discuss today. How can we consider to offer our micro-credential, although we know that micro-credential is online. However, if your micro-credential is in the TVET sector, you like it or not, you still need to have the practical component. Therefore, when it comes to practical component, if you cannot come up with so-called practical kit that is portable enough for you to send the kit to your learners, you may want to find a way to work with your collaborators. Your collaborators can be people from the industry that have the facility for your learners to do practical there, or you can work with public university, private university who also have facilities for your learners to do the practical there. So this has been discussed quite a lot amongst the TVET practitioner. How can we move on to micro-credential when we still have to make sure that the course is actually having the practical component? So I do hope, Nasha, you will be able to see the difference of what your current practice is and what micro-credential is all about. So there's a process that you need to go through in order to turn your current practice into micro-credential, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you, Dr.
Thank you. You're welcome. But I like your course actually. And I think you have great potential to turn it into micro-credential. So let's look at approach number 2. Dr. Wan has mentioned to me that this is a process normally you do when you would like to offer new programs. And if you already done it, congratulations. If you have not done it enough, or if you have done it but it is not enough, this is also something that you may like to consider basically to enhance. So when we talk about second approach, the reason why I would like to go through second approach is because we have been reminded again and again by people from the industry, and you can see here, this is actually the feedback from some of our panels during the symposium. We have Miss Sophia from Maybank that says that at the end of the day, when they employ graduates, it's not about CGPA, but it's about what is their skill and what they are able to do. And as I mentioned as well, MOF always concerned about obviously about how much money we have spent and we need to spend to upskill our graduates. Upskilling is one thing, but I think it is a valid point that Ms. Jasmina here mentioned during the symposium, that at the end of the day, if university would like to offer micro-credential, right, then we have to make sure that it is not for the sake of, oh, I have to break up my course because my superior asked me to do so, but we have to be sincerely think about, if somebody take my micro-credential, is there any career pathway for them to work? At the end of the day, is about creating a better better opportunity for a person to get a job, right? So this is where we need to consider, if we would like to turn our university course, to consider not an outcome-based approach. We need to consider how we can turn our course into several micro-credential and turn it into competency-based micro-credential. And in fact, some school of thought or some group said that micro-credential is not micro-credential if they are not competency-based. So in order for us to create a competency base, because in university, our course is outcome based. We accept for the TVET sector. I think the TVET sector, we are all aware that our course is supposed to be competency based. But for other university courses, we design it in an outcome based manner. So if our course has been designed in an outcome based manner, if you would like to offer it for professional development or for upskilling so that a person can have a much better career prospect, then we need to really look at some of these points, and I would like us to consider to do a little bit of what we call needs analysis. Okay, and when we do a needs analysis, I would like us to consider for us to find out what is the problem out there that a majority of us are facing, either in Malaysia or outside Malaysia, and what is the trend out there. Who is our target audience? What is the overlapping initiatives? So in order for us to consider all these points, there is a tools that I would like us to consider using. And the tools here is STEP analysis. And you can see here in STEP analysis, there are 5 what we call aspect or areas that we consider. One is social demographic, one is technology, another one is economic, another one is environmental and nature, and another one is political and legal. Normally, if you want, as I mentioned, we use these tools if we would like to find out whether we need to offer new programs or whether we should not offer new programs. So with micro-credential, like what I've shown earlier on, after we have break up into 3 modules, for example, we can then choose which module that we would like to really develop it into micro-credential. If we just pick anyone we like, my worry is that we may spend so much energy and time developing micro-credential that will not be able to sustain. We may come up with micro-credential that is not relevant and not really needed out there. So if we do a little bit of needs analysis, then we will be able to be sure that there is a clear need out there. It is relevant and we address basically the needs for the micro-credential that we want to offer. So how do we use, for example, social demographic? If we are clear about, okay, I would like to offer this micro-credential for a particular age group. So we can find out, for example, data on a particular age group, either from World Bank or in Malaysia, you can actually get those data from Department of Statistic DOSM. And basically when you do all this analysis, you need data, and these are basically source of data when you do STEP analysis. Why is that STEP analysis is relevant when you would like to consider whether or not you should offer that particular micro-credential from your course? Is because if you look at, for example, technology and economy, they have a great influence to whether or not the micro-credential that you think you would like to offer will still relevant for the next 5 years. And for example, if our government is actually putting in money in certain economic area, or if you know that the world is actually focusing or putting in a lot of money in certain areas, you know that if you offer that particular micro-credential from your course, you can be sure that your micro-credential will sustain. So this is how we do a little bit of needs analysis before you even develop your micro-credential, and you before you even have to worry about how do I convert the 40 SLT into full online course, and how do I create a storyboard of my micro-credential for the online learning course. So these are some of the excerpts from the briefing from MDEC, and you can see here these are some of the skills demand currently in Malaysia. If, for example, you identify that part of your course is highly relevant and you would like to close the skill gap in Malaysia, so you will be able to see which skill gap is there from some of these briefing material. And you can also get the information, there's plenty of information from HRDF as well. You can see what has been offered. And for example, under MDEC as well, there are plenty of micro-credentials around for processes. So when you would like to offer yours, and you feel that, hey, this part of my course is worth offering micro-credential, check whether similar micro-credential has been offered and has been recognized. For example, in here, some of these has been recognized by MDEC and also by HRDF under the Penjana KPT program, right? So that will help you to make sure that you are not creating something that people have already offered and has also get it recognized by certain bodies, right? So another thing that I would like to discuss about the second approach is that when we design our micro-credential to address the skill gap, I think what we need to do here is we really need to speak.
Oh, you got tell him he's gonna have tough time. 1-2 days. Huh? Huh? He send me WhatsApp or somebody telling a buy's no wait for you.
Dr. Manjit, you're not muted.
All right, okay. In the second approach as well, as I mentioned, although sometimes we have do a market survey and find out from the stakeholders or from the industry, but in our course, maybe we will have to go a little bit further, deep dive, get more details, and we perhaps need to experience ourselves what it's like in the real world of work out there. So we would like, because in the second approach, we would like to offer a micro-credential with what we call job embedded in mind. What I mean by job embedded in mind is that, for example, if we would like to offer a micro-credential on assessment in higher education, or assessment for a school teacher, typically, right? For our undergraduate, normally what we do in our class is we deliver theory, principles, we give them a little bit of activities and also exercise to reinforce the theory and also principles. But if we would like to offer it as a micro-credential for professional development, to make sure there is a career pathway for a person who take our micro-credential. Then we are talking about having to create a micro-credential, not only having theory and principle, and maybe we can basically reduce the emphasis on theory and principles, but what we need to focus is the actual action or the actual thing, ability that a person need to do or need to perform in the actual practice of a teacher. So if we take a teacher in higher education or teacher at school, for example, teacher in higher education are not trained. Although now only nowadays that we have center for teaching and learning. However, teacher at school, they are all trained. Although many teachers are trained, the job in itself is complex in nature. And that this is also where, as I mentioned, it is worth to look at what is the dilemma faced by early career professional. If a person just graduated from university and work as a teacher, for example, although they have learned how to assess, what to assess, this and that, but when they begin their career, they have to, for example, produce a sound assessment plan. They will have to produce a sound instruction document. They will have to basically come up with a good exam question, rubrics, vetting, giving student feedback and all that. Although they have learned it through theory, but perhaps they have not really done it and performed this in the correct manner, in the real setting. So micro-credential for professional learning or professional development will have to put learners into experiencing the real task that they have to perform when they work. So this is the main difference between creating micro-credential for university and also creating micro-credential for professional or upskilling purposes. So for upskilling purposes, we are talking about micro-credential of competency-based rather than outcome-based. So there's a huge difference between them. And I don't think we can create a competency-based micro-credential with our colleagues at university. And this is where we need to really work with our collaborators from the industry or from other agency. And the idea of developing a curriculum or learning experiences with industry is not new in Malaysia. I think we must have heard of TU before, and this idea is not only confined to the idea of 2 years at university, which is about creating a curriculum with industry. So when we are talking about creating a curriculum with industry, from the beginning, from the onset of we wanting to turn it into micro-credential, we must already have identified industry collaborators. And we need to sit down together and create basically what are the tasks that a person need to perform when they really work. And this also led me to reflect on my experience. Actually, what I did in my course for the first 4 topics and how I came up with my learning outcome is that I actually asked several practitioners in civil engineering when I have to teach that particular subject. And the question that I asked them is that, can you tell me what can my students do after they have gone through this, and this topic? Is it important? Is it not important? And for the first 4 topics, I thought it is not that important. It's about how the soil is actually formed and how do we classify the soil. And I remember I met one JKR engineer, and he told me that, oh, Dr. Aisha, I would like you to emphasize on this first 4 topics because he said that when engineer work, he said that normally they often, you know, did not pay attention to the definition of soil. And I said, in what way definition of soil is important when they really practice out there? I thought it is a measurement and also field work that is important for them out there, or problem solving. He said that there are quite a number of court cases related to definition of soil, because he said that there are cases when contractor actually bring this particular machinery, and when they actually excavate the material is indeed not soil, but they are actually rock that is look like soil but beginning to decompose. And because of that, the excavator that, or the machinery that they bring to the site damaged. Then I realized that okay, that is basically how important that particular part of the subject and how it related to the real world of work out there. So all I'm saying is that when we create micro-credential for competency base and for professional development, we really need to sit with those practitioners from the industry who can tell us how and in what way that particular part of subject content is needed. Then only we can design how to deliver the content with our learning designer from Open Learning or from Future Learn or from whatever platform available out there, right? So the idea of we integrating university courses and industry requires us no longer to look at our course from the perspective of university, and this is also the point where I would like to for us to reflect. All this while, we thought university courses is offered by university lecturers, but in this era of micro-credential, we can see that anybody can offer micro-credential. So now we can see that people from industry are also able to come up with a much better micro-credential. And if we do not have enough exposure on what the industry does, then it will be best for us to come up with a micro-credential with industry, and we can actually put our industry as collaborator with micro-credential, and that in itself will add value to your micro-credential that you would like to offer, right? Not only that, if you work with industry, as I mentioned, like what Nasha has earlier on raised, that if you work with industry, if you do not have certain facilities, perhaps the industry will be able to allow your learners to use facility in the industry. Okay, if your micro-credential is offered in a hybrid mode. This is also something I think quite appealing if you offer your micro-credential in a hybrid mode rather than full online. Right. So this is basically a simple notes on what competency base is all about. And this is again from the OpenCreds framework. You can see that when you aim to turn your university course into micro-credential, it may not necessarily for you to target only for it to be serving a single purpose. You can also plan how you can break up your course so that it can be stackable and fit into higher education purposes. You can break up your course into micro-credential for either for professional learning or for TVET. And you can see that if you are very ambitious, you can also design a micro-credential that serve two purposes at the same time, right? So these are some of the points that I put here on how we can add values to our micro-credential. One is when you break up into 3 modules, identify if there's any modules that is highly relevant to a particular agency or to a particular, for example, certification body. For example, kursus nikah kahwin contohnya, semua orang sebelum nak bernikah kahwin sebenarnya kena pergi kursus nikah kahwin, and dia menjadi syarat sebelum kita boleh apply kepada Jabatan Agama lah. Therefore, if you are teaching, for example, topics related to those required by Jabatan Agama Islam for the purpose of nikah kahwin, then that will put your micro-credential into a much better position. I think similarly, this is also something that has been successfully done in USM with a nursing course. So if, for example, parts of your topics in your subject has something to do with policies, be it national policy or policy related to your discipline, then that will be an opportunity for you, okay, to create micro-credential that will be sustainable and relevant. Secondly, I think we are all being requested by Ministry of Higher Education to offer micro-credential with other people. When we talk about creating micro-credential and offering it with other people, we are talking about micro-credential where our collaborators are from public university or from private university. The reason being, there is a huge move where if we collaborate in coming up with micro-credential, in context of higher education, approach 1 tadi tu, then we can get our micro-credential recognized by our members in the consortium in higher education. Okay. So, for example, like my subject is a compulsory core subject for civil engineering program. Okay. So if I can collaborate with as many universities in Malaysia to come up with 3 micro-credentials from my subject, it will be easy for it to be recognized in all institutions. So similarly, you can also develop micro-credential with consortium of industry. So this is actually making use of the 2U2I concept. Okay, so when we would like to identify which topics worth offering as micro-credential, rather than we approach a single company, it will be better for us to approach a consortium or a particular industry in your discipline. If we offer our micro-credential alone, apa yang kita takuti, satu, perhaps because we are not yet recognized, okay. Therefore, we would like to offer our micro-credential with recognized open distance learning providers, or we would like to also create a micro-credential or offer micro-credential with a recognized individual. Okay, that will help our micro-credential to be more marketable. And if, for example, we collaborate with a professional from industry, we will be able to use their expertise and also wisdom and bring in something different to the normal university courses. So that is point number 3. Another way to add value to your micro-credential is perhaps we can work with training providers. This is where we can work with, as I mentioned just now, with MDEC or with the HR of certain companies and also with HRDF to find out in what way we can address the gap out there, because basically the training division of a company know what are the skill gap that they requires for their workers to bridge through micro-credential. And point number 6 is something that I've mentioned earlier on. Perhaps we may consider when we try to break out our course into micro-credential, we can consider in what way we can offer it as a hybrid micro-credential. And if we would like to offer it as hybrid micro-credential, what we need to think about is facilities and also expertise. So if we set up consortium, it will be easier for us to offer a hybrid micro-credential. Some universities have satellite campuses. This will also put your institution in a much better position to offer a hybrid micro-credential. And another way to add values to our micro-credential is to perhaps put in context to your topics or to your course. When I talk about bringing in context, we are talking about how can we make your micro-credential different from what already out there. For example, when I create my micro-credential, I decided, because as I mentioned, my subject is a compulsory core subject, okay, and I'm sure there are people already put up their teaching videos online. However, when I created my micro-credential, I decided to bring in Malaysian context to my micro-credential. What I mean by putting in Malaysian context to my micro-credential is that I found that when students learn soil mechanics from a textbook, they have difficulties in relating what they have learned with the actual soil that we are dealing with in Malaysia. Because we have slightly different soil formation in Malaysia. So in my micro-credential, that is my bonus point there, because I bring in Malaysian context to soil formation in my micro-credential. And not only that, I also put in the practical kit inside my micro-credential, so that my micro-credential is different from micro-credential offered by other people. I think that is all that I would like to share today. I do apologize if the content does not meet your wish list early on. The last note is just something that I took from MQA GGP on micro-credential, the unbundling principles. Although just now we have talked about if you would like to offer your micro-credential for higher education purposes, perhaps you can still keep the outcome base. But if you would like to break up your course into smaller pieces and turn it into micro-credential for professional development and for upskilling, then perhaps you should consider to look at it not in the full outcome based, but to look at it as competency based, right? So Rosanna, may I just find out whether there's any question on the session so far?
Assalamualaikum Dr. Aisyah.
Waalaikumsalam.
Saya Farah dari HBT. Doktor, sorry soalan teknikal sikit berkenaan dengan SLT. Sebab saya nampak kos yang kami nak offer ni dia more to software. Kalau kelas biasa 1 jam untuk kita ajar dan 2 jam untuk student practice lah, hands on. Jadi tadi saya nampak online learning tu, boleh tak kalau dekat BPK tu, SLT kita tu lebih kepada online learning? Sebab kalau video kan 10 minit, 20 minit tu hanya 1-2 SLT kan. So kita allocate untuk student tu sendiri, SLT dia lebih dekat situ untuk dia online self learning lah, untuk self learning.
So basically you are teaching programming. So normally bila kita teaching programming kita ada lecture and then after that student will have to do their practical work kan?
Betul, di hands on. Macam kalau kelas tu dalam 3 jam kelas, sejam tu untuk kita ajar dan 2 jam tu untuk mereka hands on lah. Kita akan go around tengok kan. So SLT-nya tu banyak yang dia practice lah. Tapi since kita nak offer micro-credential ni, video kita tu tak panjang lah. Dia lebih pada dia akan practice. So macam mana tu on the SLT punya calculation tu?
Okay. Your video will not be long, but then again, when students are actually, if you like student to perform the programming that normally you deliver over 2 hours kan, practical kan. So now kalau you nak turn it into online learning experiences lah dalam micro-credential, you need to find a way how you may assist the 2 hours practical tu secara online and without you being there. Itu yang nak kena pakai instructional designer tu.
Tadi
Because the 1 hour tu, 1 hour kita normally lecture. Okay, yang lecture tu we can replace it with a video.
Betul.
Tapi kalau you buat video panjang sangat pun sebenarnya dalam online learning we normally come up with a short video. We're talking about like 3 minutes, 5 minutes and all that. Tak panjang sangat. So normally we mix videos with podcasts, with something that student need to read, perhaps something student need to try out. Maybe you have given them a code and you get them to go to a certain software that they can download free and for them to try it out. Okay, but the 2 hours practical that you normally give to your students ni sekarang ni, the fact that dalam micro-credential ni you won't be with them. So how are you going to turn the 2 practical hours tu into full online? So this is where you need to sit down with the learning, the instructional designer tu, and find out how can you design the experience of 2 hours itu. Okay, so maybe the learning designer will advise you to break out into a systematic approach where your learners will actually do the lab on their own. However, you will not get them to do in full as if they are doing it in the lab normally. you will break up into, for example, into for 2 hours, maybe into 6 pieces or 4 pieces of work. So itulah saya kata dia punya step to turn your sebab hang on, sebab the question yang saya rasa hari ni yang banyak ditanya ialah on the actual development yang dekat sini ni, actual development. Course you nak design dia jadi micro-credential tu. So yang itu yang as I mentioned, there is a technique lah yang you kena belajar daripada learning designers. Dia memang ada kaedah dia. Tetapi saya rasa kalau you pernah go through how to turn your kalau you all pernah go through how to turn, for example, your topic into substitute blended learning, you will not have difficulties in turning your topic into micro-credential. Tak ada masalah kat situ sebab approach dia lebih kurang sama saja sebenarnya.
Okay, Dr. Aisha, thank you.
You're welcome.
Dr. Aisha, sorry
Ya.
saya ada soalan lagi. Saya just nak clarify satu benda. Untuk bidang arkeologi dan saya rasa saya boleh bercakap untuk bidang sejarah juga. Bidang kami ni is something very theoretical dan kami punya instruction kami kepada pelajar tu dalam bentuk naratif. Kita nak menceritakan tentang event-event yang tengah berlaku. Jadi tak kira lah apa saja bentuk khusus micro-credential ni, tapi lecture 1 jam tu memang wajib kena ada juga. Yang face to face lecture yang online tu. Jadi untuk menukarkan khusus ni daripada online learning kepada micro-credential, maksudnya kita kena campurkan elemen-elemen lain lah. Contohnya video atau apa untuk menjadikan dia betul-betul micro-credential. Macam tu maksudnya.
If you join yang open learning punya course tu, you will be able to see untuk sebenarnya untuk khusus-khusus macam your case macam history semua-semua tu, lebih best lah if you turn it into micro-credential because you can use an approach where the information may not necessarily come from the lecturer. Therefore, sometimes tak perlu langsung buat the lecture. Because we use an approach of collaborative learning. We talk about collaborative learning, you learn from others. You learn from materials that has already been out there. You learn through forum. So, contohnya macam, let's say you have one MPU course.
Okay.
One MPU course where it normally kita akan bagi lecture lah tentang ethnic diversity lah, or where you actually how the various ethnic in Malaysia come about and all that. Normally we give lecture. But the approach how we deliver it full online, lecture sometimes is not really the best way to do it lah. And in fact, if you enroll into any online course yang bagus lah, you won't be able to find many lecture video pun. There won't be many lecture videos. In one topic ataupun in one lesson, you will find perhaps there's only 2 videos, and they are very very short indeed. We are talking about like 3 minutes, paling panjang pun 5 minutes. And the videos are not actually trying to deliver content, but the videos are meant to spark conversation, to spark thinking, and by actually putting up materials that spark thinking and conversation from collaborative learning tu lah, sebenarnya bila learners lain pun join, bagi tahu, that is how the learning develop. That is how the content is being delivered. So the content is being delivered by forum, by discussion with the lecturer. Okay, because lecturer facilitate that discussion, not that we let learners to put anything in the forum. But if you offer micro-credential, you have to engage in that forum such that that is when you will direct that discussion to the content that you normally delivered using lecture. So you see the mode of delivery now in online course is different in comparison to the normal delivery that we used to. Normally kita deliver through lecture, but in full online course, we don't rely so much to deliver the course by lecture. Tu beza dia lah, beza besar lah sebenarnya. Tapi ada saja saya tengok some online platform where the lecturer actually delivering dia punya online course tu memang banyak lecture lah.
So kami ada banyak benda lah selain daripada lecture tu. Saya plan nak masukkan mungkin virtual tour kat tapak-tapak arkeologi, virtual tour tu kami punya lab facilities. Jadi kami kan nak jalan sekali. Contohnya kita pergi lecture and after that kita buat virtual tour and then ada activities lah. So ingat nak bagikan dia jadi macam micro-credential kan. So kita mungkin gabung-gabungkan benda tu lah.
Yeah, that would be good. In fact, if you embed gamification in your micro-credential, that will be an added value to your
Apa gamification?
Gamification ataupun embed learning through virtual reality, that will be an added value to your micro-credential.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Ruzana, can I maybe I can end the show?
Ya, Dr. Aisyah, apa ni?
Ya.
Ada beberapa soalan dalam chat tu yang datang daripada YouTube. I don't know whether dah dijawab ke belum ya? Mungkin
belum kot sebab saya tak nampak.
Oh, tak nampak chat ya. Okay, saya bacakan soalan apa ni daripada YouTube. Okay, I'm a roti canai seller. So ini senario lah. Expert in many types of roti canai, tosai and chapati. Okay. Due to pandemic, business very slow. May I offer my expertise through micro-credential mode? Can I get your suggestion ensuring my skill? Because I remember Prof. Karim mentioned that sharing is growing.
I think Prof. Karim can answer that question.
Yeah. The floor is yours.
If you, at the end of the day, if you have passion, why not? But then again, I think you need to select who's your audience will be. I've seen quite a lot of micro-credentials now being offered just for lifelong learning. And in fact, previously micro-credential is meant for lifelong learning. But as I mentioned as well, our country would love micro-credential created by university lecturers for career pathway. When we talk about career pathway, we are talking about if somebody invests their time and also money in taking micro-credential, in what way that micro-credential will ensure that I can perform a better job in my current career, or in what way with this micro-credential I can get a job. So that is the main concern. So if we offer a course on roti canai, I think we have to put an aim that if somebody already go through that micro-credential, he can actually sell roti canai, he can actually come up with a restaurant of roti canai, or he can create job for others to actually do roti canai. I think the ultimate aim is not only to get knowledge, but to enable you to, you know, to put yourself in a much higher position in your socio-economic position, like so.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Aishah. Maybe I can just add on a little bit. Basically, micro-credential module ni ataupun program ada skill-based, ada knowledge-based or combination of both. So macam roti canai ni is basically skill-based. So yeah, anything skill-based saya ada share dalam chat box tu. Just to see some example go to platform like Skillshare. Namanya pun dah skill. Skillshare. almost like 100% of the module, kalau you tengok setiap satu tu, is basically teaching a skill. Macam mana nak melukis gunakan watercolor painting lah, macam-macam. Domestika, kalau pergi platform Domestika, which basically Spanish, based in Spain, dia banyak creative punya type of courses. They teach creative writing, drawing, painting, music, composing music. So you can learn actually to compose a song by taking some of these courses. So itu skill based ya. Kemudian dia punya target group, micro-credential ni, satu untuk personal development, to lifelong learners. Macam nak buat channel ni mungkin apa ni. Kemudian untuk upskilling, professional development, untuk meningkatkan kemahiran, mendapat kemahiran baru, ataupun reskilling. Kan? Yang ini kita kata unlearn, relearn dan sebagainya. Untuk dapatkan skill yang baru, so reskilling. Orang yang kena berhenti kerja dalam satu kilang, nak pergi kerja ke kilang yang lain, tapi dia kena buat kerja yang sebelum ini dia tak pernah buat. Diperlukan kemahiran yang baru. Itu reskilling. Semua ni akan dapat dipenuhi oleh program-program micro-credential yang boleh kita tawarkan. Okay, so tu just untuk tambah. Kemudian ada satu lagi soalan. Assalamualaikum Dato' Aisyah. I would like to seek advice. What are the most suitable self-instructional materials for one micro-credential? What would you suggest? Usually, who will develop the SIMs, the self-instructional material? Lecturers kena buat? Or do you have instructional designers and multimedia developers doing it for you?
I think different universities have different set of people who can offer different facilities. Saya tengok macam USM, you have a very strong team. Prof Karim himself is multi-talented. He can help people how to develop micro-credential from A to Z. But if you do not have a team, then you will have to develop your self-instructional material. And you yourself have to take quite a number of micro-credential in order to be able to produce self-instructional material for micro-credential purposes. There's a huge learning curve need to be done for those like me who have no background on full online learning, because when we talk about online learning ni susah, and most of the time when we talk about online learning, a lot of people think that what we are currently doing is actually online learning. What we are currently doing during the pandemic is not what we call full online learning. Sebab tu instructional designer for online learning ni agak frust lah why? Because the actual online learning ni, as I mentioned, the design is different than the face-to-face learning. And then basically, you have to have a framework or a model in order for you to come up with self-instructional material. And I think I'm sure dalam Prof Karim punya webinar sebelum-sebelum ni, there are plenty of ways on how you can come up with self-instruction material.
Thank you, Dr. Aisyah. Kalau di USM punya model ni, kita ada dua. Satu, hasrat kita semua subject matter expert mempunyai kebolehan untuk develop dia punya own online course ataupun online module ataupun micro-credential ataupun MOOC. Because we believe that this model is sustainable. Another model is where we have a team of instructional designers, graphic designer, video, cameraman dan semua ni, satu team to cater for the whole universities. Can you imagine that? And we have 3 campuses. We can do that, but it's not sustainable. We cannot, cater for the requirement of 2,000 academic staff to develop thousands of courses. So, kita punya model ni DIY. The SME, subject matter expert, is also the same person who developed the course. Of course lah banyak kerja lah kan, ya. Tapi that is more sustainable in the long term, and that also will give our staff a wide range of skill untuk dia mengajar online dan ada banyak spin off daripada situ. So I want to make this very clear so that everyone understand this, ya. But at the same time, those who require some technical assistance. So di sinilah kita provide, siapa nak buat shooting dalam studio, in fact kalau dia perlukan kita nak bantu editing dan sebagainya, kita boleh bantu, ya. As and when needed. Tapi kalau kita nak develop content untuk semua orang, that is not sustainable, ya. So we have to make that very clear lah. Kalau perlu kita boleh outsource jugalah, ya. Okay, alright. So ada satu soalan lagi daripada Dr. Helmi ni, Dr. Aishah. Dia kata, can we make micro-credential to fill in CPD requirement of government agencies? Okay.
Boleh.
Yeah,
That would be an added value if you do
yes.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, this is what I've been telling our people. There are so many opportunities there. In fact, recently, Dr. Aishah, saya buat briefing kepada semua HOD because HRDF, you mentioned HRDF, now it's HRD Corp. They have the e-latih platform. Dulu e-latih ni hanya terbuka kepada, certain training providers. But now they are opening up to universities, to educational institution to offer your program, kita punya program dalam e-latih punya platform. Dah buka dah. So you can offer this to industry, we can offer to these government agencies and so on. The answer is yes. Cuma we are still not putting our effort and our energy there lah. Yeah.
Prof Karim, boleh
Yes.
tak saya nak share, since tadi ada quite a number of requests, macam mana kita nak the journey daripada cara kita mengajar face to face kepada sekarang ni during the pandemic remote online, kepada what the micro-credential page supposed to look like.
Yeah, sure, yeah. Go ahead.
I just gonna share my screen now. Okay. This is the material that I used to brief UMPians on PTG. PTG is actually pembelajaran teradun gantian or substitute blended learning. So as I mentioned, substitute blended learning is actually the stepping stone before lecturers are familiar or ready to basically to develop their course into micro-credential or to come up with the self-instructional material. So you can see, for example, this is my subject. This is the first four modules, first four topics that I would like to turn it into micro-credential. You can see during the pandemic, this is how I deliver my first four modules. You can see that the first week I do have a combination of synchronous session and asynchronous session. And then in week 2, because of public holiday, I plan for the first part to be done asynchronously and second part to be synchronous. And week 3, I plan for the whole week 3 topic to be delivered in a synchronous manner. So if I have to turn these 4 topics into one micro-credential, what happened is that the way I deliver for all 4 topics are going to be what I call asynchronous. Semua akan jadi async throughout. So what I would like to show here is the how basically the learning being designed if it's not micro-credential version, and what is the self-instructional material if it's a micro-credential version. So you can see this is actually the page from my course when it was delivered before the pandemic. And you can see that before the pandemic, I simply put up some materials and that's it. Okay. However, if I want to turn this particular topic into a micro-credential module or a course, right? The fact that I no longer going to be with my students synchronously, I have to design this particular page differently, totally differently. So when I want to design my self-instructional material, I have to remind myself to use this particular model. And this is the community of inquiry model. Where when we present our material to our students, when we create their learning experiences, we have to consider, we have to create social presence, we have to create teacher presence, we have to create cognitive presence. So all three must be there. And we also have to make sure in the substitute blended learning guideline book, we have to make sure that when we create the self-instructional material, we have enough learning material activities, and we must include assessment in that particular lesson. So, so you can see here, this is how the stress, basically the self-instructional material look like. This is my second attempt. When I decided that that particular topic is to be delivered asynchronously, or in other words, if it's were to be delivered in a micro-credential version. So if you look at this page, we have we break up our normally a single PowerPoint into much smaller pieces with activities where students need to participate. And this is not a good page anyway, because this is a trial version. I have another page that I developed for micro-credential. You can see that the thing that is lacking from this page is that I did not create enough teacher presence and also social presence in that particular page when I develop the learning experiences for my students to learn asynchronously, or in other words, for your learners to go through if they take your micro-credentials. So turning your course into micro-credential require us to have a different approach to design your lesson. As I mentioned, you have to break up even further into smaller pieces, activities, reading, and you can see here, it is not all videos. It's actually narrated PowerPoint plus reading material, plus a little bit of them having to check whether they have understood the previous materials and all that. And you also put out forum for students to discuss. So these are the kind of self-instructional material that we expect if you change your course into into 3 or 4 micro-credentials. Itu saja Prof Karim, because tadi ada ramai yang tanya, saya tak prepare pun yang tu sebenarnya. But since there has been interest on that, so I just share lah.
Okay, terima kasih Dato' Aisyah. Sebenarnya apa ni, kita dah banyak juga buat bengkel-bengkel tapi dengan apa ni tim-tim yang berbeza lah. So mungkin bagi mereka yang belum lagi pernah terlibat dalam mana-mana bengkel ni mungkin tak nampak sangat lah how this apa ni unbundling tu can be done memang dia agak rumit pada peringkat permulaan kalau kita tak faham, tapi yes, apa ni benda-benda yang baru mungkin memang begitulah kita tak banyak yang tak jelas dan sebagainya. You have to do it. Selagi you tak sit down and do the cost mapping and start doing it, selagi itulah tak nampak sangat Dia nak kena buat, just do it lah. That's why I keep telling our colleague, just do it. you have to learn while doing it, yeah.
Cuma I think Prof. Karim, my take home point that I would like to stress here is that I think we are all aware developing micro-credential it's not an easy task.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort. So as I mentioned earlier, before you even start to develop micro-credential, please do a proper planning.
Yeah.
Look at your opportunities, you look at your challenges, do a little bit of needs analysis, and find out whether your micro-credential will sustain, will be relevant, because we do not want to, as I mentioned before, go back and create the same mistake as what we used to do, because sebelum ni kita tahu university has been asked to basically to review all academic programs that universities are offering, because we found that there are quite a lot of university courses are no longer relevant. They are not addressing the needs from the industry and all that. And when we did that exercise, we found that roughly about 30% of our programs offered by public universities are not relevant at all, and they are not actually preparing our graduate for future career. So similarly with micro-credential, my concern with micro-credential is that now nobody can stop you from offering or from developing micro-credential. But because you see, because developing micro-credential, as mentioned, is not an easy journey and easy task. So perhaps you may want to spend enough time for you to properly look at your marketing strategy, who you really like your micro-credential to benefit from, So the needs analysis, I think, is very, very important indeed, although many people may find it, not quite important. But for me, it is very, very important indeed, because kita tak nak keluarkan micro-credential yang banyak dan known Malaysia to offer, millions of micro-credential that has no significant impact to the development of the nation. So tak naklah juga macam tu sebenarnya.
Yeah, betul. That's what also HRD Corp, HRDF previously. They are changing into their training model into micro-credential because now they realize they have spent millions and millions of ringgit and yet it's not translated into the real productivity. Why? Because people take all these courses only to get the certificate of completion, certificate of attendance, to fulfill. Yalah, macam ni jugalah, macam kita dapat CPD point, okay, ada CPD point tak? Ada CPD point baru nak datang. Just to fulfill the CPD point for that particular year, itu je. It's not really translate into a really meaningful skill that translate into productivity. So betul lah, kita kena jelas dia punya ni. Yeah.
Macam ni kan, abang tengok gambar je abang tahu lah.
Silakan Datuk Syarin.
Sorry, terkacau.
On lah video tu on lah. Silakan Datuk.
Sebab ada Datuk hari ni, saya tak boleh nak deliver topik ni sebenarnya.
Alamak. Tanya Aishah.
Tapi semuanya dah.
It's a good one for all of us who are trying to do this. But I totally agree dengan Prof. Karim your point tadi on the sustainability, especially the model which USM has adopted. Kita orang pun dekat UTM is still struggling. Of course, there are some policy and also the bottom up and top down meeting point kena ada lah. But a caution juga ni Prof. Karim on the USM model tu on the long term sustainability. The buying in on the individual lecturers also take a lot of initiative and effort. And I remember my prior experience in a different role lah, in my different experience quoting contoh macam MMU ada MMLS and so on dulu, way back in the early part of the establishment. Of course, maybe to the younger millennials and lecturers and so on is easy. But to the archaic one, Prokarim, Prokarim ni rare species lah. Dan nak pencen pun still boleh pick up lagi editing tools lah, boleh guna GarageBand lagi, boleh buat macam-macam lah. But not everybody can pick up all of these new skills to do your own editing, audio editing, nak insert music, macam-macam lah kan. It's not an easy task. Tapi that's the challenge that we need to pick up. We keep on preaching about and unlearn. Atau kat USM tu ada term tu lah. Arwah Tok Mat dulu pun, Tok Mat Yusof pun selalu dia cakap lah kalau masa DNC di UTM dulu pun. You need to unlearn and relearn and re-skills and re-certify your own self first before we start doing it. And that's not an easy task. Macam tadi lah Dr. Aishas sebut, we ourselves need to enroll in some of these micro-credential courses before we can start producing one. And that is also not an easy task. It requires a lot of discipline and sitting down and betul-betul buat lah. So I think everybody need to have a good start. But whether we like it or not, this is the new way. And kita orang pun kat UTM ni dah ada new tagline lah, Prof Karim. Kita duk cakap sekarang ni apa, membaharukan yang biasa dan membiasakan yang baharu. So welcome to the new age of post-COVID, I guess. Itu saja mungkin tambah saya, Prof Karim. Thank you.
Yeah, it's no longer an option lah today.
Sorry, dulu masa kita develop MOOC when MOOC was pada awal-awal diperkenalkan dulu, memang kita pun tahu kan universiti telah disalurkan dana untuk pembangunan MOOC, tapi micro-credential kita tak ada dana untuk kita bangunkan micro-credential. Sebab tu saya rasa it is very important for the university punya admin to really remind our lecturers kalau nak bangunkan micro-credential tu, pastikan it is worthy sebelum nak develop, because itulah macam yang Datuk pun sebut tadi, dah lah kita kena upskill diri kita, kita nak go through, actually it's not cheap to develop micro-credential. Sebab kita ni maybe nak develop micro-credential, we have been supported by our university. Some university ada studio, and in fact orang macam Prof Karim, you have spent a lot of money to buy your gadgets in order for you to come up with good videos, this and that. To as I mentioned, energy and also the cost that you need to put in to develop micro-credential tu is a lot. Dan kita tak ada sponsor. This time round no sponsor. Tak ada dana daripada kementerian contohnya. Sebab tu fikir-fikirkanlah which part of your course yang memang sangat-sangat crucial dan sangat-sangat diperlukan untuk kita offer micro-credential tu. Kalau rasa-rasa that particular part of our course tu not worth offering micro-credential, if we still want to offer it as a micro-credential, find a way to add value. Find a way to add value. Itulah ada macam-macam cara lah, find a way to add value. And in fact sekarang people are talking about interdisciplinary approach to add value rather than a single disciplinary approach.
Yeah, that's why the idea of consortium, working together with several universities. Masa kita buat guideline dalam MQA guideline tu, kita dah fikirkan bahawa to undertake micro-credential is a requires huge effort and some investment. Tapi orang kata apa, macam peribahasa African lah kata kan, if you want to go fast, you go alone. But if you want to go far, we go together. Jadi the idea of consortium, bila kita develop satu program, kita bahagi-bahagikan kerja tu. Berat sama dipikul, ringan sama dijinjing kan. So kita katakan 5 universiti dalam satu konsortium develop satu program. So orang ambil sikit. Jadi we can do it in a shorter time, and the investment wise we can spread across all the partners in the consortium.
Consortium with the public university ni saya rasa bagus kalau kita nak develop micro-credential dalam konteks higher education tadi itulah. Maknanya come up with micro-credential for modularized, stackable and all that, and mutual recognition. Tetapi kalau micro-credential yang jenis kita nak buat for upskilling and professional learning tu, yang itu saya rasa our collaborators we need to work with a consortium of industry lah yang tu.
Industries, yeah. So Ada banyak spin-off sebenarnya. That's why bila I tengok micro-credential daripada awal dulu, starting in early 2018, then I read a lot about it. I follow the trend, and so then I realized, wow, this is really a game changer. Waktu itu Dato' Sri Idris talk about flexible education ya, Dato' Syarin. Flexible education, we talk about fluid curriculum. Wah, memang konsep cantik lah, fluid curriculum, tapi macam mana nak buat?
Satu lagi Prof,
Everything is rigid.
saya rasa satu lagi ialah jukebox Prof, sebabnya kalau kita tengok recently also, I think last year when I was with the ASEAN MOOC, kita dah nampak dah kalau misalnya kita develop good micro-credential yang kita kata tadi, then kita boleh letak kita punya micro-credential dekat dalam ASEAN punya platform. And in fact macam Korean dia dah ada K-MOOC platform, Japanese ada J-MOOC platform and all that, and we decided later on to actually work as one consortium in Asia. So that is why I mentioned earlier on pasal transnational education lah. So when we try to break up our course into micro-credential ni, perhaps we can put in our mind about transnational education as well lah, for future use, so that we can offer our micro-credential ni not only to our local university but also to other university outside Malaysia through jukebox and all that.
Ni ada soalan dari UTM ni, Dr. Aisyah. UTM tanya ni, Prof. Hairul ni. What is your opinion and suggestion on specific training strategy that UTM need to provide in order to enhance the interest and skill for our staff to start working on microcred course? Ini soalan Dr. Hairul ni ditujukan kepada siapa ni? Ditanya pasal UTM ni.
Saya rasa Prof. Karim dah jawab dah ni dalam webinar sebelumnya. I think there are several strategies lah. Satu, kalau kita nak buat micro-credential macam Prof. Karim sebut, you punya management memang kena strong. So
top down.
It's very difficult kalau pesyarah saja yang minat, tapi sebenarnya top management are not really into it. So basically, the top management must also went through a training program, a separate training program for top management. But basically, after that, you can plan to have training programs for lecturers to, again, you can structure it such that, first of all, maybe macam Prof. Karim buat introduction to micro-credential, then how you can unbundle your course, and then how you really can go to the stage where you develop the micro-credential. And for those who have already have their micro-credential on, then perhaps they can go through a training program for how do you actually deliver the micro-credential effectively, and later on you can talk about how the reward system should be. So
macam Datuk Syarin kata tadi lah, there should be a meeting point between the top down and the bottom up. Dua-dua kena jalan. Dia kalau top down saja pun you can go so far lah. Kan nak paksa-paksa orang, in the end orang tak buat pun sangat. Dia buat ala kadar je lah. Tapi kalau top down ada dengan support dalam bentuk macam-macam, then the bottom up menghayati dan faham the aspirasi, then there is a motivation there, baru dia boleh betul-betul berjalan lah.
Prof. Karim, saya ada soalan ni. Dari segi
Can I ask a question?
Ya, siapa ni? Silakan.
Zaid here from USM.
Oh, Prof. Zaid. Ya, silakan Prof. Zaid.
Okay.
Nampak.
Thank you very much, Dr. Aisyah. A very nice presentation, very inspiring talks. But I would like to, direct this question to my good friend, old friend, Prof. Karim. Okay, Prof. Karim.
Aisyah.
I feel that this is before I pose this question, I would like to, give my opinion. My opinion is, this is strictly my personal opinion, that the micro-credential is basically an online teaching delivery system. And I believe that many of us at USM sini kan, very very familiar dengan online teaching ni. I remember that before COVID ni kan, including myself, I tak pernah guna online teaching ni. Never. Prior to 2019, I think Prof. Hari, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think less than 10% of lecturer USM involved in online teaching masa tu. But COVID changed everything. Mau tak mau kita kena buat online teaching, so we have to convert everything, our lecture notes, and then kita even lab pun kita kena buat secara online teaching. So macam the skills ni, skill set tu kan, macam require labs also we have to do on online teaching, and we have no choice. And COVID ni ada banyak benefit jugalah in that sense, forcing us to depart from our traditional. So we buat teaching, and then we are familiar with asynchronous, synchronous, now online online grading, and then cuma I think of course untuk go one step further, untuk convert whatever we do online teaching to micro set. Obviously ada macam Dr. Aishas tadi, we need to go, we need to modularize. I think to a certain extent it's already there. And of course, tip analysis must be there. So I think which is not I remember dulu masa kita mengajar dulu, before the OBE time. Bila datang OBE pun kita been teaching the course for many years. Tiba-tiba datang OBE. And then semua kita kena reorganize balik our OBE system, kita macam reverse engineering. Benda tu kita dah buat, sepatutnya kita sebelum OBE tu kita kena design dulu, and then baru kita kena buat course outcome dulu, and then baru kita design the curriculum, content and so on. Tapi bila kita dah buat, pasal kita dah buat benda tu, kita dah buat for many years, OBE datang, and then kita macam buat reverse engineering, kita define what is itu CLO, what is PO and so on. So I believe that most of us here dekat USM, under USM context, I'm not very sure other university. Shouldn't be any much problem for us to migrate to micro-credential. That is my first opinion. That's bring me to my to my question. Sama ada kalau kita nak migrate under USM context, is e-learning is sufficient untuk kita migrate from what we are doing now online to micro-credential? Ada tak semua tool or do we need to migrate to another system to do more effectively? Itu saran saya, Prof. Karim.
The short answer to that, if you want to migrate everything from kita punya e-learn into a micro-credential module, I think you probably have around at least 50-60% already the content that is ready to be converted into micro-credential. It's just a matter of how do we break it up into modular unit. So it's about structuring. Content-wise, I think probably you have most of it. Cuma kita perlu tambah lagi, macam Dr. Aishah kata, mungkin ada some form of assessment yang mungkin lebih sesuai untuk online, make it better. Learning activities that align dengan kita punya learning outcome. So hanya perlu tambah baik serasa sedikit sebanyak dan structurekan into modular, then it should be ready for micro-credential. So we don't start from
my
scratch.
question is now, do we need to use another system? Can we stick with the e-learning system? Because many of us now are very familiar with the e-learning system for teaching, grading, everything.
No, because kita punya micro-credential kita ada separate platform, Prof. Zaid. We have separate platform, so maknanya kena migrate kan lah. Ada some work kat situ lah. To migrate from e-learn, which is internal, to kita punya micro-credential platform, which is accessible world over lah, basically. Global access.
Why not e-learning system? E-learning system can be accessed outside USM. It can also be accessed outside the country also, because macam-macam orang macam I ni nak pencet ni, to migrate from one system to another system which require a lot of man hours, which produce very little result. Yang tu yang payahnya. Imagine last time kita nak migrate kepada face to face prior to COVID dulu, pada online teaching, fully ini, how much effort that we have taken.
Yeah,
Nak
actually it's
migrate from
one
e-learning
off
to
lah.
another system, yang tu yang bagi I lah, bagi I lah.
It serve different purpose, ada in terms of apa ni factors like layout dan management dan sebagainya lah. That's the reason we need to have a separate platform for micro-credential. Dia one off lah, the migration is one off. Selepas itu tak susah sangat lah. Permulaan tu mungkin ada some work that need to be done, but we will apa ni facilitate and we will help our staff to do it. So tak apa, yang tu apa ni insyaAllah kita boleh sembang-sembang over coffee provide. But we can
I think
provide
for
some
the
assistance.
benefit of all our staff, why not I suggest that CDE, organize a 1 or 2 hour session migration from e-learning to micro-credential platform. Not I mean in terms of macam mana nak buat. So I'm not will benefit all the staff,
Yeah, not specifically on that. Kami dah buat macam-macam. Tapi yang itu migration tu mungkin yeah, we will take that suggestion, Prof. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Really appreciate your input there. Kita ada soalan lagi tu, apa ni Dr. Aishah. If I can pick up maybe one or two more. Oh, where is can we put one module with 2 CLO? Wah, ini operational betul ni. One module 2 CLO. What's your opinion, Dr. Aishah?
You can actually, however, I think we have to remember when we talk about CLO, we have to assess. And actually macam kita discuss tadi untuk deliver 1 hour lecture tu, kalau you turn it into micro-credential, sebenarnya 1 hour lecture into micro-credential tu dia akan jadi contohnya short video plus reading plus this plus some activities to allow student to check whether learning has occurred or not. Jadi bayangkan kalau you ada more than one CLO dalam satu micro-credential, then the micro-credential will be much more longer, complex, and you have more assessment that we are talking about.
I would say that 2 CLO in one module is too big. Yeah, kalau dia dah defeat the purpose of more module, the concept of module, to make it smaller lah, more portable and standalone. In fact, one CLO could end up with several modules rather than one module with 2 CLO, the other way around. Yeah. Okay, tak apa. Mungkin Dr. Nasha punya soalan. Will there any future course on how to use USM online learning system? I have just received this ideas and oh yes, we have been doing this, Dr. Nasha, based on demand. Sebab kalau kita nak buat sekaligus macam ni, mungkin berapa orang je datang. So mana tim micro-credential yang baru nak bermula tu, memang kita ada buat separate training for them. Itu we've been doing it for a while already. That's why kita non-stop actually, Dr. Aishah, USM ni. Kami buat training bagi tim-tim yang beza ya. So just talk to us. So we will provide we will conduct the session ya.
Micro-credential platform is it open learning, Prof?
Yes, we are still using open learning daripada zaman MOOC sampai sekarang lah. And they are getting better. And I don't think we were going to change in we're going to use open learning lah. Yeah.
Chin is here. I have 2 questions.
Yeah, silakan Dr. Chin. Go ahead.
Now I'm at the stage of the doing this open learning. So when I set the activities for the module, for example, I upload reading material. Some of this reading material are open source. Some are not. Some article I downloaded before this USM subscribed to this article, but now USM no longer subscribe to this article. If I upload this material into the open learning, so do I violate any copyright issue. One question.
Okay.
Second question is assessment as well. I'm at this stage to design the assessment. So I saw just now, Dr. Aisha, you have this so-called graded tutorial. What do you mean by that, and how do you set that and do the assessment? Yeah, thank you.
Okay, normally, can I just pick the graded tutorial first, Prof. Karim,
Yeah,
before you
sure.
talk about the copyright? Graded tutorial, normally we give tutorial in classroom, right? But we do not give student grades. That is just for student to actually practice and also to find out for themselves whether they have get whatever that they have learned. However, when I use graded tutorial, I actually give student the tutorial. I guide them how to do the tutorial, but that tutorial is actually graded and the marks is actually counted for the towards the marks for the course. So that is what I meant by graded tutorial in my subject, actually.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Shah. I think for copyright, I think this is already the operational part, the nitty-gritty part. I think maybe we cannot answer everything here in this session. You can always, communicate with us. But as a principle, anything that has a copyright, we have to get a permission from the owner, copyright clearance to be on the safe side. Then we encourage people to use public domain material, pictures and so on from public domain, or those using Creative Commons licenses. So as part of the workshop, sometimes we also highlight on this copyright issue lah. But individually, if you are not sure, then just contact CDAE, or you can also communicate directly with PUU office, Pejabat Undang-Undang. Dr. Khairul is actually an expert in copyright, intellectual property, so you can get advice. But it's good to get advice to make sure that you are doing the right thing before you publish the course, yeah?
Yeah, Prof. Karim,
Yes.
I'm aware of those picture that use, but this is the article. Like I
Article.
want student to read. I mentioned that this article, some are open source. I'm very sure I can upload. But those article, USM subscribe, but no longer have the subscription. So,
If
Yep.
you just share the link, then there shouldn't be a problem. If you share the link, then the student will click the link and they will go to the site. So that is okay. You can put it. That's actually one way of doing it. Instead of embedding everything or upload everything, we can actually provide a link for them to access. So that's a workaround lah on that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Otherwise, get the copyright permission lah. That would be the best way.
I think article we have to pay. Per piece is cost 20, 30, 40 US dollar.
Oh.
Ah.
Then if you have a way to find alternative, that would be good also.
Because there's no alternative, because those particular article is selected because it helps to discuss the topics and for the assignment. So I'm facing these difficulties. I cannot launch this first of my micro credential still with this little things stuck there. See?
So in that case, maybe the student will have to access it on their own accord. That's yeah, I know. Those are the small thing, but can be a stumbling block.
Yeah, can I say for example, can I put let's say a note there? For student who cannot access this, please contact the instructor. I have the copies saved in my computer, or can I share with them or things like that?
Strictly speaking, anything copyright we cannot simply share because that is the exclusive right of the author, if we understand, kan? But anyway, I think let's talk about it more. I mean, let's communicate on that.
Okay, thank you.
To clarify lah.
Prof, I have one question, Prof.
Ya, betul Nasha.
Untuk pusat arkeologi sekarang ni, kami daripada segi konten kami tak ada masalah, cost mapping semua kami dah siap. Okay, sekarang ni kami dalam proses untuk hasilkan virtual tour, untuk buat video semua lah untuk cost micro-credential. Tapi right now our biggest problem adalah daripada segi the technicalities. in terms of cara nak pakai that online portal tu lah, that online learning portal. Jadi kami harap in the future kami boleh ada satu bentuk khusus atau apa yang boleh ajar kami macam mana nak pakai benda tu.
We can arrange one workshop. Just let us know.
Kalau macam workshop tu kalau buat semuka boleh, Prof. Kami boleh bawa laptop kami and orang boleh ajar kami lah nak klik apa, sebab kami ni tak pernah pakai langsung benda ni kan.
Semuka ni itulah masalahnya sekarang tu. Kalau tadi memanglah kita nak buat semuka kan. But now I think we have to do it online lah kot.
Because we need to learn macam apa nak klik, I mean what is this website about, nak klik apa, nak tekan apa dia punya. Jadi I mean saya dah dapat dah dia punya ID semua, but bila saya buka I'm totally macam clueless, tak tahu nak buat apa dengan benda tu kan.
Oh ya, okay. Kita boleh buat pelan-pelan, tak apa, boleh. Kami CDE trainers ni semua penyabar orangnya. So, kami buat pelan-pelan.
Because kami we know next to nothing about this thing. So ni kali pertama saya masuk login ke benda ni. Jadi saya jadi clueless, saya tak tahu nak start daripada mana tau. When it comes to
ada orang komen tu kata Dr. Rasha orang muda lagi, patut lagi hebat daripada
saya bila datang ke benda ni susah.
Tak apa, kita akan bantu insyaAllah. Kita start dulu dengan online, tak apa, step by step. Kita buat cara orang tak tahu, kita buat cara orang tak tahu. Tak apa, don't worry. We are passionate enough to deal with different level of skill. Don't worry.
Okay.
So let arrange the bengkel for that,
Okay, baik.
Okay, alright. So thank you so much. I guess cukup lah ya, sebab apa ni kita sepatutnya sampai pukul 11. Kalau ada lagi soalan-soalan micro-credential 40 hours SLT, there's so many operational punya question here. Kalau yang bertanya soalan ni, kalau you have the team that apa ni, then kita akan kita boleh buat bengkel-bengkel yang berasingan to address all this operational level punya ni, soalan-soalan macam mana nak buat itu, macam nak buat itu tu ya. Seminar kita pada hari ini is more on the conceptual, more on the bigger things lah ya. Alright, boleh ya?
Sekarang saya ada soalan satu je.
Betul.
How do you in USM, how do you ensure that you decided on the theme, on the quality of micro-credential overall?
Kita ada apa ni?
Kita belum ada macam group lah, a consensus decision. Maybe dah ada
Kami ada. Kalau kita panggil QC team lah, yang akan meneliti setiap modul-modul yang telah disiapkan. Actually that is the bottleneck lah sebenarnya. I know I have to admit banyak juga micro-credential team yang ataupun developers yang komplain kata lambat lah CDA buat apa ni. Masalahnya sebab kita hanya ada lebih kurang 26 orang. Nak buat QC, sekarang ni kita ada 360 modul tu Aisyah. 360. So jadi dia kena go through lah. Ya.
QC tu will look into the technicality of micro-credential tu kan. Kiranya dia will act like MQA lah. For example, MQA will look at the curriculum, tengok fit ke tak fit, the presentation and all that. Tetapi who will be acting like JPT punya JKPPT, yang JKPT tu? Who will okay, if you look at the offering of new programs, for example, once you have an idea to offer a new program, you will have to bring it to the JPT kan, untuk dapat saringan awal. Kenapa kita ada saringan awal? Sebab kita nak pastikan yang keluar tu memang yang highly relevant, berdaya saing, yang boleh sustain. Before the universities before the university develop dia punya program tu. So similarly macam micro-credential ni, sebenarnya kita boleh check quality micro-credential ni, tapi before that, siapa yang membuat saringan awal yang mengatakan, okay, untuk khusus you ni, if you would like to offer, out of 3 micro-credential, would like to offer the second module as micro-credential, I think it is okay. Go ahead, baru you develop. Ada ke proses macam tu sebenarnya?
Not so. Kita tak ada yang macam tu. But now it's actually free for any PTJ, any team nak offer apa yang dia orang rasa sesuai dan relevan. Cuma kita bagi tahu macam tadi lah, Tok Aisyah kata mesti you kena study dulu, buat gap analysis, buat apa need analysis dan sebagainya. So whatever that they want to offer, we believe we assume that they have done all the due processes dan sebagainya, dan then we come into ni. Kalau untuk academic program, they have to bring to the Senate and get the Senate approval. So far kita bawa ada satu program, degree program yang telah diluluskan oleh Senate untuk ditawarkan sebagai micro-credential. So that is the process. Tapi kita tak ada yang macam JPT tengok, okay, yang ni you nak tawarkan kami rasa tak sesuai. Kami rasa you kena cari partner. No, we don't have that kind of entity yet lah.
Alright, okay. Sebabnya I think we are all aware, kita punya experience dulu dekat GPT kan tentang MOOC Kita ada banyak MOOC, tetapi sebenarnya dari segi enrollment and dari segi whether the MOOC eventually fit the purpose lah dengan dana yang dikeluarkan tu dia tak capai lah.
Semua ikut suka masing-masing je lah.
Ya, betul. So eventually tak ada takers dan
tak ada haluan.
Dana yang dikeluarkan tu macam we always been questioned about that by MOF.
Understand, yeah. I can see the apa ni, the reason behind your question just now.
Itu sebabnya
Kena
university
more
pun
apalah,
when university would like to spend money on micro-credential development, as I mentioned, because it is costly, I think itulah tak tahulah how you will think of
it has to be strategic lah. It has to be strategic kan.
Sebab kita pun nak jaga nama negara jugalah.
So, yeah. So, okay, I think that is a very good session. Saya rasa Dr. Aishah telah membawa ataupun membawa satu perspektif yang mungkin berbeza sedikit. All this while maybe you have been hearing from me, maybe my approach is different. So I guess today you have learned something different maybe. Hopefully they will spark some ideas, and hopefully, but ideas are ideas. Okay, it has to be translated into action. So don't dwell too long on the ideas. I believe that this is a time to take action. So I urge everyone, especially USM, I think we have to take action and do and embark on micro-credential secepat yang mungkin. Time is not on our side. USM is always seen as spearheading this. So we have to be seen to really spearheading this. So we need to get more. So far, I think we are doing quite well in terms of number of module and so on. Tapi yang baru keluar, yang roll out, baru nursing 7 modul, pharmacy punya group baru 3 modul. And they are doing well, insyaAllah, Alhamdulillah. But we need more, okay? So itulah seruan saya kepada semua dengan sesi pada pagi ini sedikit sebanyak dapat memberikan kefahaman yang lebih lagi dan juga memberikan perspektif yang berbeza, memberikan idea-idea yang tercetus, but translate that into action. Just do it. Just do it, ya. So kepada Dr. Aishah saya ucapkan banyak terima kasih di atas masa yang diluangkan dan perkongsian ideas dan sebagainya dengan kami. Kami amat menghargai dan insyaAllah kita nak bawa lagi Dr. Aishah ni kepakaran dia on assessment dan sebagainya ni. InsyaAllah ya, Dr. Aishah ya. Kalau sudi bantulah kami.
Tak boleh lah Prof. Biasa ramai pakar tu, saya tak berani. Hari ni pun tak boleh deliver dah.
Dia macam ni Dr. Aishah. Orang kampung ni, Dr. Syarin Datuk Syarin. Orang kampung ni dia nak orang luar juga. Macam tu.
Kena bawa luar Dr. Prof.
Kena bawa orang luar.
Dengar.
Dia kata sebut nama dengan nama Karim aja. Cukuplah tu, udah lah tu dia kata. Udah lah tu. Tak mau dengar lagi dah Prof. Karim. So nak kena bawa Dr. Syarin, kena bawa ada apa ni
UTM
dan orang-orang lain lah daripada luar. Baru mereka nak dengar. Okay. So itulah, terima kasih banyak-banyak. Terima kasih Dr. Syarin dapat meluangkan masa. Seronok dapat jumpa orang-orang kawan-kawan kita yang memberikan kita semangat tu. So with that, kepada semua yang hadir sampai dengar sampai sekarang ni, saya ucapkan terima kasih ya. InsyaAllah kita akan bawakan lagi banyak lagi speakers daripada luar untuk berkongsi dengan kita. So with that, saya ucapkan selamat sejahtera dan kepada semua. Saya sudahi dengan Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Bye-bye semua.
Betul.
Thank you, Prof.
Datuk Syarin, take care.
Okay, you too. Natasha, all the best.
Aisyah, all the best. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you, Datuk.
Okay.
Thanks semua.
Thank you, everyone.